there, and welcome to another edition of What's the Word in association with Ladbroke. Slightly different panel this week. I'm joined by Johnny Wood, a regular contributor, and Danny Mullen, special guest. How are you, Danny? You all right?
Good, yeah, good to be back.
Looking forward to a varied weekend because you're actually heading to Cheltenham tomorrow.
Yeah, I head to Cheltenham tomorrow. I ride the Mare for Willie in the Bumper Royal Illusion. She's won her last two here and would have a good chance in that. Probably one of Paul Nicholls that might take a little bit of beating in the race. Forget the name, but it was first run to relegate in a bumper last year, and Highclere have bought it since. It might be one to beat, but hopefully give it a fair run.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the season so far for you has been pretty good. I mean, 28 winners. You know, it's gone pretty well. You must be happy with how it is so far.
Yeah, I've had a good year here. 28 on the board. Probably the highlight of it so far might have been the one on the flat, Riven Light in Galway. I got a great buzz out of that. You know, he's got a good turn of foot, and it was a plan that came together well, and he done the job.
You've been to the UK once. I mean, is that a thing you'd like to do a little more often, perhaps, try and ride over there? I think you won from one over there. So
yeah, I had a winner there for Garrett Ahern in Plumpton 2 weeks back, and hopefully if I can get some good rides early in the week and I'm not missing racing here, I'd go back again, and maybe next week there's a possibility of going over midweek as well, so we'll wait and see.
I was going to say, is that like a challenge for you? You know what I mean? Obviously, you're going to get some rides from Willie Mullins, but obviously you know where you are in the pecking order. So it's a case of, you look elsewhere, but what to kind of make decisions on that? Yeah,
definitely. You know, the bulk of my big rides on big days, like, you know, come Cheltenham, Christmas, and all that, would be from Willie. But, you know, Paul and Ruby will be riding plenty of others in between, and you need to keep riding winners to keep your eye in, to deserve the rides when the big days come. So I'll go wherever I have to go to keep the confidence up and ride as many as I can.
And I said, during the week in the mornings and that, do you get into Willie's? Do you try and spread yourself around? Do you ring lots of trainers? I mean, what way do you kind of work?
Yeah, I do 3 work mornings a week in Willie's, so we're there a good bit. I'll be with my mother and, you know, as many other trainers as I can get to around. You know, we're starting back with a bit of rain coming to go to schooling days again. And it's to any trainer that wants you have to go.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
Saddle will travel.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, looking forward to the weekend, so I may as well start with the Bet Fixture Handicap. You may have a ride in this, actually. You're in the reserve down the bottom for Eric McNamara.
Yeah, Black Scorpion, I'm not sure if he's going to get in. Usually in these big handicaps, everybody sticks to it and they'll have a go. But if I do get in, you know, he's in there off 10 stone and he might have an each way squeak. Going through the race, you know, it's a hard race maybe to assess. The one I like in it is Mr. Whitaker for Mick Shannon. Adrian Heskin takes the ride. He won well in Carlisle the last day, which is a stiff finish. He suits the track. He's 2 from 2 in handicaps around Cheltenham. I think he won at the festival last year.
Yeah, won the Close Brothers last year, yeah.
Yeah, so he's a one I'd like. And Rather Be, probably going to start favourite for Nicky Henderson. He's 250 days off the track. I don't know, it'll be a fair performance from him. The other one, maybe with a squeak, is Baron Alco. You know, he had a nice comeback run the last day, ran a little bit fresh. If you go back a year and a half ago to his novice form, he was second to Whisper, second to Road to Respect at the festival, and second to Top Notch.
That's decent, yeah.
He gets in there off 10-11 at 10-1. He might be the each way betting the race.
What about you, Johnny? You poured over this race, so we're looking here this morning. What do you make of it?
Classy race, like Frode on top weight, move with the times in among them. You know, he was only 5-1 for the Supreme when he was injured 2 seasons ago. I didn't warm to him as a novice last season. I don't really like the way he jumps, and I don't think he's alleviated that with his reappearance on seat either. He's a strange method of jumping. Yet you kind of wouldn't be amazed if he popped up in one of these. He's plenty of ability, but I'm going to go with King Socks. He's a horse I followed last season. There was an awful lot of talk about him before Cheltenham, probably because of his run behind Footpad in France before he came over to the Pipes. He ran an absolute blinder at the festival, travelled very well. It was a race that Gordon Elliott won with the Storyteller, who obviously went on to win a Grade 1. It's good form. And then he rocked up at Aintree and he went off favourite. I think it was 11-4 shot. Very, very disappointing. I'm not sure what happened. You'd have to say David Pipe. You wouldn't fear the yard as much as when Martin was in his absolute pomp, because this was the sort of race that...
Yeah, this meeting was really their time when they shone as well. I mean, but
he's probably like 12 to 1 now. He wouldn't be anything like that price, you know. But I think I really did like his run at the festival to a point. I thought, given his inexperience, he shaped really well. Prior to that, he'd finished behind Modus in what was effectively a schooling race. I'm going to take a chance on him at 12 to 1. It's very, very open, but I think there's more to come from this horse. And in fairness, the yards runners aren't in bad form at the moment. So I could definitely see him run the big race. And it'd be great for Danny if Black Scorpion got in. Smashing jumper. Probably not quite good enough to win, but he ran a blinder in Limerick and certainly wouldn't be without a chance. Yeah,
well, just before the Betfixture Gold Cup, we have the betfixture.com handicap chase. And so it's a significant part of this is the return of Coney Gree. Look, it'll be 350 days since we've seen him. He's carrying top weight. Is still officially rated 160, 10 to 1, probably an accurate reflection of his chances, Johnny.
I know one of these horses, he could trade shorter and running, but I don't know. It's a bit of a strange race to come back in. Like, it's an absolute slog. This, like, you know, what is it? 3 miles and nearly 3.5. Like, for a horse of his fragility, I'd prefer to just find some sort of conditions race, even over hurdles or something. Just ease them back in, see where they're at. If you remember in the Kerry National last year, he was favourite before he was not declared, and they pulled him out. They pulled him out of that because they thought the ground was too soft, which I thought didn't make any sense. Because in any event, what a horse! It'd be great to see him back. But this is asking a lot. This race is next to impossible, I have to say. If you look at Royal Vacation on his form when he actually won here in the past, he's not badly handicapped. I'm not sure he's going to get this trip, but a lot of them would have question marks in that regard. And the Tizard horses are flying it at the moment. He just comes back off the mark he's won off. He's bolted up actually off. I think he's at 143. He's bolted up off that. He comes fresh. He was very disappointed in the main last season, but something has to win it.
What about you, Danny? It'd be great to see Coney be back to himself, but that's big.
It would be. It'd be a fantastic training performance. You know, it'd be great when he won the Gold Cup. The Bradstocks, you know, they got fierce credit for having, you know, the neck to go and take it on. They won and deserved it. But for me, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
No.
That's the thing about fairy tales, they're not true, isn't it?
They're not true. He's an 11-year-old, you know, as Johnny was saying, maybe a conditions race, maybe to get him going might be the thing. He'll probably go prove us all wrong and win, but for me, I just can't see it happen. The one I like in the race is Sharp Response for Sue Smith. Just see, I was looking through it last night and he was 16 to 1. He's gone into 10s this morning, so somebody's obviously taken the same view. He won well in Carlisle the last day. Probably a weak enough race, but the run that maybe caught my eye was when he was third behind Mr. Whittaker in Carlisle last year over 2.5 miles. You know, he's only 4 lengths behind him. I give him a great chance in the big race on the day. So
well, if you're giving him a chance, you've got to give Sharp Response a chance on that line.
Definitely, and you know, it's a while ago, but it's a race, as Johnny was saying, there's a lot of has-beens, older horses. Calais Mad is the 6-year-old in the race, who might be open to improvement, but for me, he's had his chance and isn't there. The young master won nicely on his comeback run, but you know, 10 stone 1 gives him a chance. I don't see it happening. Sharp Response is the one we'll go with.
Good stuff. Right around, it's a busy all day on Saturday. Punchestown, New Exeter, Wetherby, bit of all weather action as well.
Just the other thing about the young master there, he won today. So he's not going to run, right? I would imagine. And the problem with that is that brings it down to 15 runners, which makes it frustrating each way race. So it's a race I wouldn't be putting a lot of money on. Although looking at the young master today, you'd have to think he'd have had a massive chance. He was absolutely brilliant. He benefited from a couple of fallers, but in any event, they had their day in the glory. But it'd be some crack if he turned out again tomorrow for a 3.5 mile race. But anyway,
that'd be a hell of an ask. At Punchestown, Johnny, one you were looking at there at 1:10 is that Craddockstown Grade 2 chase. Yeah,
this is a cracker.
Cadmium and Vodarev there.
Yeah, somebody pointed out to me, Vodarev was like, I think, odds on in the anti-post mark for this race, and now Ruby's riding Cadmium. I thought Vodarev was brilliant at Galway. You know, I think Mind's Eye travelled well, but he literally just put him into his in his place very, very readily. He was a good hurdler. You remember memorably himself and Campiador fell at the last in the Fred Winter independently. I think definitely one of them would have won, but we'll never know. Campiador made a fairly uninspiring chase debut the other day, but this horse is better. Hardline is very classy, typical typical horse by Arcadio, who basically just travels well, has a lot of class. He was good at Fairyhouse as well, but I liked Vada Rev, and I think because Paul Townend is riding and Ruby isn't, Ruby on the verge. Ruby's actually on the back of a terrible run. It's probably one of the worst runs of his career. In November, I think he's had 13 rides, about half of them favourites, 5 or 6 falls, no winners, so he could definitely do with. I actually have a theory with Ruby. I think because he's been more selective, I don't think it's really helping him. I think he's just better off go back into action and ride as many as he can. Danny might have a different view on that. But,
Yeah, Danny's like, no, mate.
I think we might get Ruby to watch this, and he'll come out and he'll ride the next 6 months.
Yeah, hopefully so.
Exactly.
Like he's probably the best jockey I've ever seen, and I hope now the season kind of kicks off for him, because it's been a frustrating month so far. But in any event, Vada Rev has Paul Townend's assistance, and what his performance yesterday in Clonmel on the winner of the chase was absolutely extraordinary. How the horse won after the mistake it made, and he didn't panic, and he's riding well. So I think Vada Rev could take the beating, despite the fact that Ruby is on Cadmium.
Well, there's not much between these pair, is there, Danny?
Very little between them, you know. On the day, Cadmium carries 3 pounds more, but Cadmium is a horse I've won on a couple of times and put in a fantastic performance for me in a handicap chase there last year at the festival in Punchestown, and the time was very good on the day. And I think Vada Rev is probably going to jump out and go. He usually likes to bowl along in front, and that for me I think will set up the race for Cadmium. You know, Vada Rev, if one of the others, maybe the Gigginstown horses, are going to take on Vada Rev, not let him have a soft lead. Cadmium, handicap experience in a novice. I think he's only a novice until the start of December with the new handicap season in Ireland, which is good. It makes these races competitive. And I think
this is a cracking race, like, you know,
definitely.
you've 4 right good horses in this,
and
like.
with the old handicap rule, Cadmium wouldn't be able to line up here, and it really makes it a proper early season test. And I think Cadmium for me is the one to win.
Fair enough. Anything else for you on the Punchestown card of interest, or anything else?
The Mare's hurdle on the day.
You've actually, sorry, just saying this. You've ridden all 3 of Willie's that have run in that race. The Mare's listed hurdle.
Yeah, you know, Stormy Ireland, she was good to me last year. She won a couple of races, and I was placed on her in France afterwards in a Grade 1. I think, you know, the fact that she's a little bit free going should mean that she's fit enough at home. She's always kind of doing a little bit more than you'd want, and they just have to keep a lid on her. The girl that rides her out the home route does a great job with her, and I'd imagine she's going to take a bit of beating here. Good Time Tara, Paul rides, who probably get Johnny's vote. He's in Paul's corner this week.
That was only the last race.
She's fit from the summer and will give it a good run. And Rhea Tell, I was second on her at the festival in Punchestown 2 or 3 years ago. I'd imagine she's going to want a little bit slower ground, but is a high-class mare and maybe want to watch towards Christmas.
Good stuff.
Ruby's riding Stormy Ireland as well. It's just been an exciting ride for him.
You love Stormy Ireland,
You just hope that she's chilled out a bit over the summer, because she's not helping herself. The fall she did at Cheltenham was an absolute horror fall. Like, I thought she really struggled to get up, and you gotta love these tearaways, but just to help herself, you know, just to relax a little bit.
The more beans she has, the better she
is.
So
it's kind of
trying to watch her with her tail in her back.
It's kind of, it'd be hard for a Cheltenham to win like that. Maybe in Ireland in softer ground she can do it, like, but you know, this is a good race as well. I was very disappointed in Paul's mount the last time. Good Time Tara, as good as she's been, but Willie putting in the filly that Danny rode as well. You never rule them out in them races, because he doesn't put them in just to show up, like.
Absolutely. Let's move on to Sunday. Morgiana Grade 1 action at 2:15. This could be a cracker, right? Do you think Samco runs?
No.
Do you think Samco runs?
I'd say they'll run him.
Just looking outside, there hasn't been a lot of rain. There hasn't been a lot of rain since that quote about them needing softer ground.
Yeah, and I've seen a quote that they're going to have some selective watering, so I'd say Punchestown will do everything they can to get Samco to run. And
how selective would selective be? Like, I'd say, like, you know, 3 rivers of loads of water to keep making sure they run.
It makes a proper race of it if he does line up. And, you know, for me, the last day, if he was going to be a real champion hurdler, I think he should have won. But all reports were that he was very big in the parade ring beforehand, which can be taken in 2 ways. He's going to improve an awful lot, or else he's had a hard race and he's coming back 16 days later. But Faugheen looks in great shape at home. He'd been doing a few lovely bits of work, and you know, to see the coat on him every morning and the condition he has this year compared to last year seems to be brilliant at the moment. If you had have asked me Sam Crow Faugheen at the end of last season, I'd have to go Sam Crow, But just Sam Crow's preparation and the question mark about ground, I'd go with Faugheen on the day.
Yeah. What about Sam Crow's hurdling technique? Do you think he's quick enough to be like a top class? Like if he went, like say last year's champion hurdling, you see the way Beauverdare and the like of Mellon absolutely fly their hurdles. Do you think he's a little deliberate?
A fraction, but you know, in fairness, I was happy with him the last day. He jumped very well. I seen Jack on him. You know, he was happy and just blew up. Ruby wasn't going too slow in front. You know, the time was very fast around Down Royal on good ground, and he coped with it well. You know, he fell the last day, or in Punchestown last season. But I wouldn't worry about his jumping, albeit he's going to have to improve to jump with the likes of Bouvard there.
Yeah, Johnny, what do you make of the Morgana?
I'd favour Sam Crow, to be honest, but I'd just be inclined to think he won't run. I was out in Dublin today. It's like a summer's day. I was up on the beach yesterday in North Dublin. Again, you'd swear it was mid-November. It's absolutely insane. I don't know about you, Danny, but like as somebody, if you're involved in horses that want ground like this, it's getting really, really frustrating at this stage. It's just every week, it's like no rain forecast. The ground is nearly on the quick side of Fairyhouse the other day. So I couldn't begrudge them if they take either any horse out with a view to the future. I'd be going chasing with Sam Crow. I've said this for ages. I think he should be chasing, but I still think he's an absolute machine. I'm willing to forgive him Down Royal. Eddie O'Leary said afterwards he didn't think he'd win. In fairness, he didn't say that before the race, but I don't know. I don't know if he were asked either. But in fairness, he was very weak in the betting. Like shouldn't be 1-2. Shouldn't be 1-2 in that company, really. Like,
would it be wrong to not give a mention to Super Sunday? You know,
absolutely. I think he's a great chance at 8-1. I think he's the straightest. That he's fewest question marks over him, if anything.
Definitely, you know, he won 2 Grade 1s last year and 2 other good
over
seconds
2 miles,
between it. You know, you don't straight away think of him when you think Morgiana, but he's going to definitely make a race of it and make the others go a long way.
Yeah, he's in it as well. You'd have to think Faugheen might want a bit further at this stage of his life, given his performance at Punchestown, which is out of this world. I've no reason to think that was a fluke. I don't think the rest could lie up with him because he went quick, but he maintains it. I mean, that performance was one of the most memorable things I've ever seen in racing for a horse that seemed to be gone.
Yeah, right.
I would sincerely love for this to happen. I think it'll be one of the races of the millennium, really. I mean, what can you say? Sam Crow against Faugheen. But sometimes you learn to be sceptical. I just hope it happens. I'd be with Sam Crow if it does.
Okay, doke. All right, let's move on to Cheltenham. The Race About Arkle trial. I mean, this is a small field. It's a select field, but like Defi Desoy's debut over fences, claiming taking Forgan, really impressive on his first chase and start. And then you got a few more in the likes of Lawler, Pink Shoe as well, coming back from a break. This is a pretty decent renewal. Yeah,
here I suppose I'll be a little bit boring. I'd have to like Nicky Henderson's horse, claiming taking Forgan. You know, he was good. He very professional in his win this year. Defi Desoy for me is a juvenile coming back. Sometimes you just don't train on it. It's just
it looked that way last year, didn't it?
Fantastic horse back in his juvenile days, and in the Triumph, unbelievable performance, backed it up in Aintree, but can't follow a juvenile. He'll have to prove it for me. Dynamite Dollars 1/2.5. I don't think he's going to be sharp enough. Lawler, you know, for Cayley Walcott, it'd be fantastic, but you know, won an end of season race in Aintree last year, and he might need to improve a little bit.
Yeah, Johnny, who do you fancy for this?
Yeah, I'd be with Danny, claim taking Forgan. Defi Desoy, just remember how disappointing he was last year, and this massive question mark. He was a juvenile that wasn't maybe a quintessential juvenile. He looked like a horse that was a proper national hunt horse, and you could easily see him running well, and they're delighted with him afterwards. But that doesn't pay if you want to back him to win the race, you know. And claim taking Forgan was every bit as good as he is as a novice hurdler. He looks very straightforward. He jumps well. Wouldn't rule out Pink Shoe with the horses of Tizards running that well. He hasn't been seen since Punchestown of the season before last. But he was a very good horse. I think that was around the time Robbie Power was sort of riding.
That's when he had those like 3 Grade 1s at Aintree, and then he started that association.
Again, like he's 8 years old, going on 9, so it's kind of a little bit late in the day. Yeah, and to be honest, I think claim taking Forgan at the price is one of the bets of the weekend, because he's basically bulletproof. You're reliant on something kind of springing from out of the douse that we have to beat him.
Yeah, which seems unlikely. Let's move on to the Greatwood Hurdle at 3 o'clock. Verdana Blue here tops the market at 7-2. She's 2 out of 2 so far this season. You find a big lump of weight for her to carry, even though she's fit. But
well, yeah, I think more to the point, she's probably well in, you know, under the penalty.
Yeah, technically she is.
Yeah, so I wouldn't worry as much about the weights. 11-11 on a mare, obviously, it's not that easy. I was talking to connections of Shattered Love. They're dreaming of maybe doing the Dawn Run and win the Gold Cup this year. She's a mare that can carry weight. Whether Verdana Blue can do that, we'll see. But I have a bit of a soft spot for Nubi Negra, I have to say. I backed him in the Fred Winter last year. He travelled like an absolute dream. They've given him a wind up.
Short and right up as well.
Yeah, he was disappointing at Aintree, albeit that was a good race. He was pitched into Grade 1 company. He can be quite keen. The Skeltons seem to love giving horses wind operations. It's definitely one of their go-to systems anyway.
Well, he's a student of Paul Nichols, to be
yeah,
fair. So.
To be fair, he an unbelievable operation by all accounts, his yard or whatever, but I think this horse has a lot of ability. This is a race it's tailor-made for him. 4-year-olds have a very good record in. I usually wouldn't be mad on backing 4-year-olds in handicaps against older horse, but I think they've won 3 of the last 7 or something like that. I think he's a lot of ability, and this is the type of race that you know he has to go for potentially.
Dan is definitely going to be targeting some of these races as well. If he wants to give himself a live contention in the Trainers' Championship, he hasn't got the horses for the Grade 1, so these handicaps
has to smash the handicaps.
Smash them in, as you're saying, and he looks to be laid out for this. The horses, you know, they dipped off at the end of the summer, and this lad hasn't ran for 220 days. Good run around Cheltenham last year. I'd be liking him.
Yeah, he travelled like a dream in the Fred Winter. Obviously, it was a race that Ireland went on to dominate, but I'm a big fan of horses who can go back to Cheltenham, and like he loved the big field if he can just drop the bit a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else for you on Sunday? You fancy one at Cork in their 155, that handicap hurdle?
We don't have an awful lot of time to prep through all these races, and I did miss one of the horses I'm exceptionally excited about.
Okay.
See if Danny can guess it, actually. He's only having his second career start on Sunday.
Sunday?
Before all of that, at Cork, Clementina, who's by walking the park, and if you remember with Duvan and Min, walking the park was, I think his fee went to something like 10 grand or something like that. He was like all the rage, and very little has actually happened since. He just, I don't know if maybe he doesn't have many runners on the ground in Ireland and Britain, but anyway, this filly is by him. She ran a blinder in a maiden hurdle, I think, on this card last year, and Tony Martin's horses are just hitting form.
Yeah, come back into form.
Owen O'Connell riding, massive fan of him. I think himself and Liam Gilligan are going to be the 2 go-to jockeys in this race. I did the Spotlight for Racing Post, and I think Liam Gilligan's mount will be favourite, but Clementina, I think she could finally win a race here for Tony Martin. Has Danny figured out who I'm really excited by?
I'm not sure who you're excited
by. Second lifetime start or second start in a race course?
The latter. 2 horses taking on each other in a match, and both are named after geographical locations.
Yeah.
One is named after Mount Leinster, and every time I hear Mount Leinster, it makes me think of the song Bun Clody, because it's part of the lyrics. But it was called Mount Leinster because Mount Leinster overlooks Closutton, and Patrick, they wanted to name a good horse Mount Leinster. I don't think he's as good as Malone Road, though. I thought this horse was out of this world at Down Royal. I was up there. They went absolutely no gallop. He won a point to point, and he went from slightly squeezed to go on Winnie's race to 10 lengths just like that. It was an incredible burst of speed. I've no idea what trip he'll want, no idea where he'll end up this year, no idea if he'll go to Cheltenham bumper, but I have a good idea that he'll win this.
Danny, were you going to sit in defence of Mount Leinster?
I think Mount Leinster, you know, he's a proper horse, so he is, you know, going
You want to agree with me on anything today? Or?
No, we'll have to disagree.
Just like Tony, isn't he?
It'd be wrong if we didn't rattle your cage a little bit.
Madeline Talicki's on next week.
Happy days.
Madeline Talicki is a very good trainer for the record as well.
Absolutely.
Her 2-year-old preparation is fantastic.
And Andrew Canarns, you know, the assistant's doing a good job there.
But we'll get back to the business anyway. Mount Leinster, for me, I think will put it to Malone Road. As you were saying, you know, it was a very slowly run race in Down Royal, which to me says the form might be a little bit false. Take nothing away from the horse on the day, but Mount Leinster was the one there that I like. Another bet maybe for the Greatwood hurdle, I'd like to say an each way one. Charlie Parks stopped the champion hurdle at the top of the hill last year, and after being drilled along early, you're thinking, is this lad going to stay going? You know, Barry rides him with a sneaky ride around. You know, he's a horse with plenty of experience, could be an each-way contender in it.
Good stuff. Right, let's get on to our best bets of the weekend then. We're going to get 3 selections each, Johnny.
We'll go for biggish prices.
We'll start with you. Johnny.
We'll go for biggish prices, sir. Sure, to give us, I suppose, real hope. Latterly, I tipped up Clementina. She's running at Cork on Sunday. That's in the conditionals handicap hurdle. We'll just get the time of that race here. That is on at 1:20, and the same day as well in the Greatwood, New Binegra. That's 3 o'clock. And then on Saturday, probably the lesser the least fancied of the three, maybe King Sox in the 225. But if all else fails, just lump on Malone Road.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, go on, Johnny.
So
Your three best chances.
I'll go. The first one will be a big price one, as I was saying earlier. A sharp response for Sue Smith in the handicap chase, and Stormy Ireland in what will be a fantastic weekend for Ruby. We'll put Johnny back in his
220
place.
at Punchestown, yeah.
220
I'm
at
totally hoping it
Punchestown.
is as well.
And I suppose it'll be wrong to stop this and agree with Johnny, and Mount Leinster is going to come out and do it in the bumper.
Okay, doke.
The words of that song are, at the foot of Mount Leinster are some silent place, and Danny'll be in a silent place after this race. He'll have nothing to say.
Silent place, absolutely. Right, my best bet of the weekend is, I think Brain Power is going to win the race there at Cheltenham.
Brain Power is your bet of the weekend.
Yeah, Brain Power is my bet of the
Brain
weekend.
dead.
I'll agree with Johnny for this.
With
It's
Clayman
just not
taking
gonna
4
happen.
again, and I'm also going to pop up as well. Western Rider, just to treat an absolute lunacy brigade. Right, let's get up. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week for more What's the Word.